All right, good evening. We'll call the meeting to order and ask that you join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Fryrick?
Here.
Mrs. Schrader?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Desai?
Here.
Mr. Sanders?
Here.
Mr. Sears?
Here.
Mr. Posnow?
Here.
Mr. Tillman?
Thank you. This is our reminder to please silence your cell phone during our meeting and the first opportunity for public comments. All comments and questions will be addressed to the President. Board and staff members will not normally respond to comments or questions during the meeting unless recognized by the President for this purpose. Comments will be limited at the discretion of the President to 5 minutes or less. Any takers this evening? Hearing none, we'll move along for our action on the board minutes. Looking for approval of the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting conducted on February 13th. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they can be accepted as they were submitted. Mr. Sears has our treasurer's report this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Schrader. Just a couple statistics. Our interest income this month from the general fund, other, and full flex investment pool investments were $63,000, down a little bit from $68,000 last month. The rates that we're using right now are reflective of recent Fed rate increases, and we have a maximum this past month of 4.85%, which is pretty good for us. General fund revenues, just give you a little recap on that. Year-to-date expenditures, $54.8 million, against the budget of $66.6 million. And general fund expenditures, $29.6 million, against roughly that same budget amount. For our consent agenda tonight, would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
This can be a unanimous.
Second.
Oh, yeah, second. Thank you.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. For the President's report this evening, I have just a quick comment. In light of recent events in our greater community, as discussed in local news, I wanted to address school safety. We as a board expect our schools to be safe and want all who enter our buildings to feel safe. It's heartbreaking to know that we may have children, our own students, who don't feel safe in their own school, of all places. I want to reassure families there is a procedure to follow if your child is feeling unsafe. Please reach out to the appropriate administrator with your specific concerns. Our role as a board is one of governance and the development of relevant policy for the district. This isn't the venue for discussing individual concerns. To the administration, Dr. Krauser, I'd like to ask that we have discussion at a future board meeting about safety, bullying, and the like. Do we have a problem? Do we not? Perhaps some education to help us all understand the greater topic and where we stand as a district. Any feedback or comment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. First and foremost, I couldn't agree more. Safety and I'll say the sense of belongingness are critical when we think about our students in the systems we have being a part, actively engaged, and having that belongingness are extremely important to us as a school system, certainly as an administration and a community of learners. So certainly a priority for us as well. I would agree. I would say our appreciation goes out to the schools around the county. Certainly, as we know that there's been some conversations, I think it echoes that what we see in schools is not local to one particular area. It is a larger concern, certainly at a middle level, when we talk about a developing student and a very fragile mind in that sense. I do believe that we can provide those materials and certainly education, being involved in educating students on social emotional development, social skills, managing all the things are an important part of that. I also think that students have greater access to information that is beneficial, but I also think they have access to information that can be hurtful as well. I think social media and the like and devices provide great opportunities for our students, but there can also be some damaging pieces of that. But we'll certainly embrace that challenge and bring some things to the board to unpack that where we are, K to 12.
Great, thank you, thank you. That concludes my report. Moving on to your report now, Dr.
Great.
Krauser.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. For those in the audience, thank you for braving the weather this evening, and I continue to encourage you to be safe upon entry and exit. There was a little bit of ice coming in as we go. So for this evening's report, I have a few items to talk about. I want to highlight a few things that took place in the month of February, most importantly on February 17th. On days that our students aren't with us in the month of February, our teachers are hard at work in their professional learning as well. As we model that learning experience for our students, we do it as well for the adults. A couple of high-level overviews on that day. District-wide, our 3 to 12 science educators engaged in a deeper dive into those science standards. That's going to continue to be a process for us over the next 3 years as we embrace the new science standards shared with us from the state. Another part of that district-wide was that continued advancement in our math steering committee. Dr. Furman will be providing an update of that next month. We're excited to see the work that's been done on both those steering committees as we get ready for that next action plan. The team is actually meeting this week on those final steps, and we're looking forward to Thursday night's event. At the high school and our K to 12 related arts, our unified arts teams, they worked on that UBD. That's understanding by design. That's our framework in which we write and design and implement our curriculum. Stage 1 is the utilization of our standards. It's really big picture learning objectives. They refined that and they began to put that entry into our curriculum management system, which is our online portal, EduPlanet. And of course, the science team at the high school is working on course alignment and sequencing as we get ready for the Keystone exams and some updates we've seen from the biology examination. At the middle school, staff did QPR training, question, persuade, and refer. That is suicide prevention training, and how our staff can be first-line supporters of that to help students and adults in great need. They too also worked on UBD, our curriculum development, and MTSS, acronym soup here tonight, multi-tiered system of support, systems of supports, and again, that's that tiered approach where we have our tier 1, it's our 80% delivery of that core content as it moves up through the interventions into tier 2 and tier 3. A big part of that is analyzing data to make informed decisions from a curriculum development as well as an intervention end. At the intermediate level, we did a great deal of collaboration between East York and Indian Rock, where the content learning teachers were sharing and collaborating as they move through both horizontal and vertical alignment. So there's 3, 4, 5 curriculum in a vertical sense, as well as 5th grade teachers all working together. Two critical parts, we talk about curriculum both vertically and horizontally. And again, MTSS data analysis. At the primary level, more implementation of our science of reading, very specific direct instruction in literacy element. Letters training is, they did module 2, we did module 1 in the beginning of the year, so they're continuing with that process as well. So teachers were engaged, lots of active involvement, sharing resources, and being collaborative, a critical part to helping us be successful. So the second item I have this evening is to kind of just summarize a long process that involves a variety of steps that have taken place over the last decade and talk a little bit about what's happening in the coming months and next steps. So I wrote down some notes to share this evening. One of the primary entry goals for my role as superintendent of the York Suburban School District was to develop and recommend to the Board of School Directors a master facilities plan that was designed to meet the district's vision. Our vision, which is the York Suburban School District inspires, empowers, and emboldens students to meet high standards, engages in a collaborative community that values students' personal growth, and encourages students to explore and define pathways to their future, is a very robust and ambitious goal. Yet it is an essential and critical horizon we must progress towards in our journey of inspiring a bold future in each individual student at York Suburban. This goal was developed due to 10 years of discussions surrounding the facilities and programs of the York Suburban School District. Work on this topic dates back to a Murphy and Dittenhaffer's 2013 feasibility study. Then in 2016, Gilbert conducted a facility and feasibility study. Then in March of 2019, that facility study was updated. Then in 2021, Crabtree, Rohrbaugh & Associates conducted another feasibility and facility study. One common theme has prevailed throughout this time. The school district has certainly done their homework to assess our facilities and their capacity to perform at the highest level. This extensive analysis consistently revealed similar mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and structural recommendations. Furthermore, in coordination with the district, the studies suggested program recommendations, grade realignment consolidations options. Each option was designed to look towards the future and meet the needs of York Suburban's planned education programs. Combining these reports and recommendations with the addition of a comprehensive year-long steering committee analysis completed during the future focus planning, it is safe to say that stakeholders are acutely aware of the district's facilities and our learners' needs. The goals and cumulative recommendations of these actions over the last decade can be simplified into 2 points. In a fiscally appropriate manner, how does the district best utilize resources to provide facilities that align with the delivery of our planned educational program that best meets the individual needs of our students? And how does the district ensure major maintenance items like MEPs, structural physical conditions, are operating well to prevent disruptions to these educational programs, services, and opportunities we provide our students? Despite these studies and their resulting recommendations, implementing an effective and efficient change to the program and a majority of our capital plan items have yet to occur. In conjunction with this comprehensive review of our facilities, in the last 10 years, we've also seen the landscape of public education and our district needs change dramatically. And we are now a system of increased diversity, requiring a need to offer more meaningful pathways and choices for our students. Our students and community have opportunities to learn and grow from expanding perspectives while ensuring our graduates are prepared for enrollment, employment, or enlistment. This is a very proud moment of York Suburban and one that we should be celebrating. Student diversity is expanding, most notably our Hispanic population, which has seen a 136% increase since 2013. Large shifts across our demographics has established a current landscape of 65% white and 35% non-white. Furthermore, these changes over time have led to almost triple the number of multilingual students attending our schools, placing York Suburban third in the county with the highest number of limited English proficient students. Furthermore, families experiencing economic challenges have nearly doubled since 2009, with increasing groups experiencing homelessness and foster care. Since the 2010-2011 school year, district-wide, our economically disadvantaged student population has grown 18.5%, now equivalent to 4 out of every 10 students. At Yorkshire Elementary School, for example, that percentage is over 50%, meaning 1 out of every 2 students require assistance from economic support programs. In addition, approximately 5% or more of our students need special education services now than they did in 2013. To provide a rigorous and relevant educational experience for all students, we must ensure access to the resources students need at that exact moment when they need them as they progress through their educational journey. We must ensure a school system that provides consistency in our programming and eliminates roadblocks to our students accessing their education. The York Suburban School District has always valued and held purposeful curriculum. As such, our spaces and use of time, which are a direct arm of that curriculum, must evolve to better meet the needs of our modern learners. From all of this, 3 priorities have surfaced. First, both of our 3 to 5 elementary school buildings have exceeded their school utilization rates, thus resulting in increased class sizes, inefficient use of personnel, and inconsistency in programming and inequitable distribution of resources. Secondly, our program, particularly at the secondary level, must provide the educational pathways the families desire and need. Third, a clearly defined and executed capital plan has yet to be implemented. Providing a world-class education at an affordable cost demands we focus on our priorities. I recommend not spending any more district monies or resources for additional analysis. We already have a decade's worth of that. Utilizing the work done to date, including the feasibility studies, our enrollment studies, the predicted and confirmed new housing projects, our stakeholders' guiding principles, and the district comprehensive plan, the administration proposes the following. Over the next few months, administration will be using the previous work and applied inflationary costs to determine the anticipated cost of 3 priorities. An intermediate consolidation option. Consolidating grades 3 to 5 will create a more cohesive and efficient learning environment. This will allow teachers to coordinate curriculum and instruction better, provide more individualized attention to students, and create more focused learning experiences. Relevant, rigorous, and contemporary educational program pathways for all students. Projects specific to the secondary program to better align with student enrollment, enlistment, and employment pathways, and coordinated with modern curriculum and contemporary learning environments. Implementing a more direct career and technical pathway provides students with increased opportunities to develop practical skills and reduce the likelihood of practical skills and prepare for future jobs. And lastly, a capital plan committed to assuring a reduced likelihood of planned program disruption and contemporary facilities to meet the needs of our students. These priorities will be presented to the Board of Directors in a formal recommendation, which will include a detailed financial plan to achieve the recommendations in a fiscally responsible manner. Administration will seek feedback from the Board of Directors throughout this process. Administration will seek a motion and action to accept or reject this proposal during the August board meetings. John Connor once said, John Cotter, not John Connor from John Cotter, once said, a higher rate of urgency does not imply ever-present panic, anxiety, or fear. It means a state in which complacency is virtually absent. This aggressive recommendation timeline is presented to close the door on a decade's worth of complacency and planning. Both competitions against public schools and our responsibilities in preparing all students for their future are firmly at our footsteps. It's a time for Suburban to once again be the model of excellence for others to observe and aspire to be. So the next few months, the administration will be bringing those items to the board to engage in conversations and feedbacks as we unpack those 3 prioritized options from that feasibility study opportunities. So more information will continue to come over that over the next 3 months. Thank you. The next item that you have before you, and I don't see a hard copy at your seats. We'll make sure we get the hard copy for you. We had an illness today that took Ms. Potts out of our plan, so I'll make sure you get a hard copy of that. But we do have the enrollment report as of the month for each section, so if you can go through that, Dr. Orfink, thank you. And then there's Lincoln Edge, and then the last one, of course, is our update. And I believe our student report will be sharing more, but we do have some upcoming events. Of course, this weekend, Seussical does a musical. We also have exciting updates coming in from our athletics. We know our girls basketball are playing tonight. Hopefully, we'll be getting some updates on their district push, as well as this weekend. Swimming takes place, and then wrestling will be in March as well. So you can see our upcoming events for the evening. Oh, excuse me, for the month. Thank you. The next item that I have in my report is the administration seeking a motion tonight for the approval of the addition of a high school girls wrestling team.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, then I guess this can be a unanimous roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you. Secondly, the administration recommends the board approval of the York County School of Technology 2023-24 budget.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion there? Again, a unanimous roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Item C, which appears to maybe cut off from your paper copy, is the administration recommends the board approval of the proposed Lincoln Intermediate Unit 12 2023-24 general operating budget.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Again, Mrs. Chichilli.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Item D is the administration's recommendation for the board approval of the proposed 23-24 York Adams Academy budget.
So moved. Second. Discussion? You're on a roll.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
And lastly, I'd like to recognize 2 donations that the district has received. The first one is a $250 donation from the Crescent Industries, Incorporated, to the High School Technology Student Association Student Activity Fund. And number 2 is $1,000 from Archetype Glass, Incorporated, to the YSHS Student Council for Minithon. And we thank our donators on supporting our programs in the district. And that concludes my report.
Anything for Dr. Krauser? Mr. Sears?
Yeah, a couple things. Back to the first part of your presentation, Dr. Krauser.
Yes.
I wanted to just add something, and really a pat on the back. Fordham Institute recently published some information about a strategy to improve performance in middle school math. And it was fairly detailed. Math performance around the country has essentially been in the tank. A lot of what's been discussed has been attributed to COVID, but I think we're all aware that this reduction in math performance, especially in middle school, has been going on for a long time, and it's really shocking. A report on the news this evening talked about what's going on in some of the larger cities around the country, where, for example, 25 to 40% of the tested kids score 0 in math proficiency. 0. Right here in this area, the York City system, in their 8 K-8 schools in the last round of PSS8 testing, 8th grade math performance, 2 schools scored 0. The overall city average is 4.3% proficient. And that's been going on for years. This is not new. Now, the positive part of this is that the recommendations that were made by the Fordham Institute conform exactly to what we're doing. And I think Drs. Furman and Sneddon need to be recognized for the work that they've done to try to unpack, to use your term, the problems that we've had in middle school math, and to try to turn this into a direction that can build on the successes and the data analysis that they've done. They've done a wonderful job, I think, of keeping us informed in terms of not only the overall scores, but the components that make those scores and those things that need to be shored up. So I want to give them their just due on that. I'm very proud to say that. The second thing is just an observation, Scott, and it goes to the Lincoln Intermediate Unit budget. Looking again at the administrative salaries over the last 5 years, the departmental salaries for the high-paid administrators have increased, and we're looking at salary and benefit from a little under $400,000 to almost $1 million a year. That's a huge increase, and I just wonder if you can, at some point, get them to shed some light on that, some specific information for this board and others as to what is going on in the administration. So I would appreciate some feedback on that at some point, not tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Will.
Thank you.
I do know that there have been some new contracts of personnel in there, but I can find some more details.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on to the business office report. Mrs. Chichilli.
Okay. Item A under the business office report is the consent agenda. You have before you the business office report. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, I would ask that a motion be made to approve the below mentioned items.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Again, just for the public's information, I want to assure them that these votes are not taken just without discussion and consideration. The board has had this information for some time now, and discussion has taken place. So if there's no further discussion, then we can proceed with a unanimous roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Item B is a new item since the last board meeting, the planning meeting. The administration recommends board approval of the service contract with Sunbelt to provide speech and language pathology. The term of the agreement is January 28, 2023 through May 31st of 2023 at an hourly rate of $86.85.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Okay.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Item C and D are both veteran exceptions under the Pennsylvania Veterans Commissions of Real Estate Tax Exemptions. As I mentioned before, these veterans need to apply every 5 years. There is an income qualification, and the disability has to be related to the service that they served, the service that they had. And so we're bringing you two for consideration and approval for tonight.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. Are we motioning on 2 or 1?
Two.
C and D,
Both
correct.
C and D.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay.
These will be considered unanimous roll call votes unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The last item is E, and it's informational. You have before you the dining report from Whitson's to read at your leisure. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call or an email. That concludes my report.
Anything for Mrs. Chichuli? Okay, moving on. Our student representative is here. Hi.
All right, so Seussical the Musical is this Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Girls basketball is in the district semifinals tonight for the first time, and last I checked, the game was tied at the end of the first quarter, which means there's still 3 more to go. And they're also going on to the state tournament. Justin Adams placed 6th in district this year, and Tyler Adams placed 1st, both for wrestling. And Tyler is the first district champion in York Suburban history. Model UN had a successful trip to Georgetown last weekend, and Minithon is preparing for their main event in mid-April, urging students to sign up and gain as many donations as possible. The in-school SAT and PSATs will be held in late March, and spring sports are starting their preseason activities.
Hey. Anything for...
I don't know if you know,
Representative.
how many of the swimmers made districts?
I am not sure.
Okay, because that's what, that's okay, I can probably look online too, so.
I know a few girls did. I'm not sure about boys though. At least 3 I think play, yeah.
That's next week.
Correct.
Yeah.
In a dive or two.
Yeah. So hats off to all of these students who, especially the athletes and the musical students. That's a lot going on right now. But the girls basketball team, do I understand correctly, the first time in school history they've gone as far as the semifinals?
Yes, that's the information I have.
Yeah. Yeah. We know you're right. And the wrestler,
Yeah.
which Adams?
Tyler got 1st in district and Justin got 6th,
So Tyler's moving on to states.
I believe.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And again, first time. So that's I love hearing that. So that's great. Thank you for bringing us that good news. Moving on to committee reports. Mr. Robinson, Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. You have before you the personnel report. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. Any questions or discussion on any of these Personnel Committee items? If not, then we can go with the same plan we've been following, Mrs. Chichuli.
Okay. This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Do you want to proceed with the legislative report?
Actually, I would like to defer to my friend and colleague, Mrs. Fryrick, to go first, because
So then you'll be able to bring all kinds of good news. Okay.
yes, I will.
Lincoln Intermediate report, I have nothing from the LIU. We did pass their budget tonight, which I'm sure they'll be glad to hear. And the Joint Operating Authority meets again towards the end of March. York Adams Academy, my true love. You have the highlights from our January 31st meeting. We can continue to have students meeting their graduation requirements at a rather rapid pace now, so we're very excited about that. They have lots of potential employers coming to speak with them and offer them advice on their careers. And as always, York Suburban continues to fill their 15 seats on a very regular basis, so I'm very pleased with that. And thank you again for approving the budget. That concludes my report. Your turn, Richard.
Ellen, just thank you for making the effort to join us via Skype or Zoom or whatever it is. We're glad you're with us and hope you're feeling better.
Coming along each day, slowly but surely. A lot slower than I'd like, but surely for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, the legislative report. I don't know where to begin. Today there was a press conference at our state capitol, and I am pleased to say that Suburban showed the flag in small but highly qualified numbers. And on that note, I would like to defer to my esteemed colleague and companion in this effort, Dr. Stephen Sullivan, who rode up with me to Harrisburg today. I was driving, so Dr. Sullivan could actually say he laughed in the face of death. Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. So there was a press availability in the Rotunda of the Capitol today that was organized by Keystone, sorry?
Yes.
Commemorating the fact that now over 90% of the public school districts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania have the elected school board officials on those school boards have asked the legislature to do something about cyber charters.
What was that percentage again?
It's over 90%.
Yeah.
91 to be exact.
Okay.
The same folks that vote for us, vote for them, and so there's a very live question about how it is that the legislature think they can get away with ignoring this issue year after year after year. There was a reference to Groundhog Day today, and that I think that's very true. We have representation from both upper and lower chamber.
Yes, we did.
And I think the situation is now such that the folks in the upper chamber can't count on the lower chamber to run interference for them, preventing things from coming before the Senate for votes that might make them uncomfortable about charter reform. So there were a lot of facts laid out about cyber charter performance, about the funding mechanism, about the direct relationship between cyber charter tuition payments and tax increases at the local level. Anyone who had ears to listen got an earful today. So I was disappointed to learn, and I'll just lay this out, that our representatives in Harrisburg have, for whatever reason, are not going to be physically present in the building for Advocacy Day this year, which is interesting, telling. But I think the plan is to try to actually move something on this before June, so that before the legislature is out for the summer, they'll have voted on any of a variety of potential proposals. 337, I think, that was in Dr. Krauser's report to the board. I think there are some others. There are a lot of different things that they could do to fix this problem for us, but I think we all need to bring pressure to bear on our elected representatives to say, the current state of affairs is disadvantaging the children of their constituents, and they need to do something about it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. And if I may add to your comments and remarks, one of the comments made by Rob Gleason, who I think is a former Republican chairman, was that the 91% of school districts signing on for this resolution is great. Makes everybody feel good. It doesn't matter. And he said this, and I believe I'm quoting, what matters to the people in the legislature are votes. And if we come back here, as we are tonight, to say to all of you here, And to all of you listening at home, if you believe that charter reform is necessary, write to our representatives and let them know that this issue is of great concern to you, you care about it, and you vote. Because I believe the rule of thumb for an elected representative getting one letter from one constituent is that you have at least 10 friends who think as you do. If they start getting 10, 15, 20, 40, 50 letters, suddenly they start doing the math. And many local elections are decided by small vote margins. So if there is a groundswell of voters backing up the resolutions, that will get more attention from our recalcitrant legislators, and they may actually move off the dime. Basically, that sums it up. I will add, though, that one of the highlights of the visit was we were on task from the time we got out of the parking lot to the time we got to the rotunda, because we had the good fortune to run into one of our representatives, none other than Carol Hill Evans, who was stunned to see us walking toward her. And when we told her why we were there, she was pleased, was she not, Dr. Sullivan? As well as surprised. So that reinforces the idea that if we do go up, if we show the flag and we talk about those issues that are near and dear to us, it does register. And I would add, if we show up more than once or twice a year, it's going to register even more. Because as Dr. Sullivan said, to my great dismay, Advocacy Day is remote this year, which is about as effective as watching paint dry. It's just not the same as confronting somebody face to face, getting in their space, and telling them, you got to do something about this, you rascals. You've had long enough. So on that note, Dr. Sullivan and I were toying with the idea of forming a small cadre of representatives and interested parties to go up to Harrisburg from time to time and visit not only with our representatives, but with members of the Education Committee.
How many in the cadre?
Pardon me?
How many are in the cadre?
As many as my car will hold, John.
Like a gaggle?
Yeah.
Kind of like a gaggle, yeah.
Yeah, a gaggle, a group, a pride, you name it. So that pretty much sums up our foray to Harrisburg today. In other news, as Dr. Sullivan mentioned, Senate 337 calls for school districts offering cyber programs equal to a private cyber charter program not having to pay for that program, which I think is really a step in the right direction. Senate 415 opens applications to the new maintenance program under Act 70. I know an act that's near and dear, again, to all of us. In addition, I would like to close by saying I think we are all aware that one of our state senators, Senator John Fetterman, has experienced some medical difficulty with depression. And I think we are all agreed that it's wonderful that he was able to admit this and to get treatment in a timely fashion. But I would add that once Senator Fetterman is fully recovered, it would be even better if he became a champion for some of the people in our community who cannot just walk in and get care on demand. They still have to wait 3 or 4 months at least. We've had students that are parked in an emergency room for several days, and I would submit to you, this is unacceptable. I'm going on the premise that Senator Fetterman will agree when he's able to. If there are no questions, that concludes my report. No questions?
Thanks for Rich.
Okay.
Thank you, Rich. Quite the informational report. Thank you.
Thanks to Dr. Sullivan.
Yes, Steve, thank you as well. Count me in your cadre when you make this plan. I'll write up.
Okay. John?
York Adams Tax Bureau, Mrs. Chituli.
No report.
No report this evening. The York County School Technology, just a thank you for approving of their budget, and a thank you to Mr. Posnow. He attended as the alternate in my stead last week, and I think you're going to do the report.
Yeah. I was there for the last meeting. They have announced that they are full for the fall semester. They've accepted 1,735 people. There are 494 new students, and they waitlisted an additional 590. So demand is certainly outpacing space. I thought it was interesting. They boast a 99% graduation rate. For I think it's 25 technical programs that they yearly look at markets to align. They are going to be looking at ways to begin expansion. They already own land, so they're going to look at possibly programs that they can do without building, and then others at building. So they're going to be moving toward a long-term growth plan. Because it's really unfortunate to turn away more people than you let in. That's it says something for demand, but it's unfortunate. And I guess that's the end of my report.
Thank you, and thanks again for going when I was away.
Is that growth plan established? Or
No. They've just said we need to do this, and they're beginning to meet as the group of the board with the administration, and they're looking at a couple of options. One is it's easy to say we're going to build a building, but that's 6 years down the road. So what programs can you address in modular places in existing locations and still move forward with the planning?
Yeah, it's a big asset to the community, and I appreciate the support this school district has provided. And encourage you too, if I'm always talking about the wonders of York County School of Technology, but I would encourage you to look at the mini board report that is linked tonight in your agenda. Another opportunity to recognize visitors, a handful who've come out this evening. We appreciate your tolerating the weather to join us tonight. There's information about upcoming events. Encourage you to participate in as many of those as you can. Also, the meeting and committee schedules is there. Moving on to the last opportunity for public comment. Any takers this evening? All right, hearing none, so we can stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.